Welcome to the Daily WIP, the show where we discover everyone is becoming a media company. On the show today, we're talking about creating a thread. Creating the thread for your audience is an interesting concept, and we talk about it a lot over here at Whipster. There's a number of elements to it. So one, you need to figure out what platform you're going to have the thread on. We're currently experimenting with having YouTube as our platform. So everything we do off YouTube is to drive traffic to YouTube and watch the video. It's really interesting when you look into user metrics around attribution of traffic and everything else. The numbers are still early on, so we, sub 1,000 views per episode. So some have 700 views, some have 200 views. So it's still early on those numbers in terms of seeing true themes. But we know that if we post something on Facebook, and we might put a tiny ad spend behind it or no ad spend, we see that the people who come through from there come through and play the video. I think this is what brands are trying to figure out, is that you've got marketing, and then within marketing you've got digital marketing, and then within digital marketing you've got content marketing, and within content marketing you've then got basically the thread which you can create around your statements, around your secondary product if you're making video as a learning center for the world of where your product lives within. Or it can also be discovery, so it can be about how parts of your product or service works. And you might be creating a thread, like an entertaining thread to take people on the journey to learn about how to become a customer of yours, because their business or their life is just going to get so much better if they do that. So the interesting thing with thread is that first of all you've got platform, so where is this thread going to be living? And if you look at someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, his thing is that he's obviously got YouTube as the place where the videos live, and he uses Instagram and Twitter and I think Facebook to drive more people to go and watch those videos. But also experimenting with creating bite-sized versions of the longer videos on those other platforms, so you can have a total digestion of a message without having to go to the primary source. And I think that's quite interesting, because it starts to think about a thread not just simply being a sequential series of videos that you might watch on a platform, but a thread being a thread of thought that you as the consumer are able to consume on multiple platforms. So I'm able to go and look at a 30-second video on Instagram where he's talking about a certain something, and then I can go to YouTube and watch a 20-minute daily V, and then I can go to his podcast and listen to him at an event do an hour-long talk, and I can jump through and have a listen to parts of that. And what's interesting there is that the thread is the same. So the messages that are being said are the same on all the platforms, and they're just being given to me in different ways, so I can absorb them in different ways. But it's not to say that all the other platforms are always trying to get me to go to one platform, which might be a bit too much of a simplistic thought process, but it's that the messages, the thread of the thought process, is getting through the audience no matter where they consume it. And I think that's interesting. So there's 2 points there. One is that you might create a primary thread on a platform and send everyone to that piece from everywhere else, or you might have a primary thread of things that you want the audience to consume, and they're consumable on any platform, but the thread is basically their thinking process with your thinking process. The struggle there is trying to get an audience on every single platform. It's quite hard to grow an audience on any platform. We've got a few thousand people on Twitter, Facebook. It's only a few hundred on YouTube. We've just started on that one. We haven't done any work on Instagram, but I think that's pretty much a big open playing field there. And then you've got podcasting, which we don't do yet. And I think that's also quite interesting, being able to think about just audio, just being able to play audio. I mean, if you think about this could be consumed just as audio. I'm not doing a lot of visuals at the moment. We're just trying to connect on a personal level. But then getting your messages out via audio, I think for a lot of brands, maybe this is on the smaller side now, but on smaller companies, the production cost is a lot lower to just do audio. But also your ability to create masses of it as well. So if you think about an investment firm, A16Z, and Andreessen Horowitz, they have a podcast which I listen to quite often. Oh my God, I think they produce one one every day, or maybe one every 2 days, another half an hour episode about somebody at the firm, the investment firm, talking to a thought leader or two in the space, or another technology person around certain things, and they're talking about pharma, they're talking about medical, they're talking about AI, everything. They basically cover all of the topics that they'd like to invest in and have invested in, and then create content around that to create a massive audience of people who might want future investments, so that they're filling up their pipeline of startups, established companies that they could invest in who know of them. So that's pretty interesting. There are other investment firms who are doing similar things, but they're investing heavily in audio because I can only assume they understand that audio is kind of a passive thing. You don't have to give your full attention to audio, and you can just consume all these stories and just think about A16Z, right? Like, have I said the name of any other venture capital firm? No, because none of them are doing a podcast series that I listen to. So that's of interest. So when you think about the thread, it doesn't just have to be video, it doesn't have to just be audio or imagery or text. I mean, I would almost say that by the end of this video, I've kind of convinced myself that the thread doesn't have to be on a singular platform. It's just the thread of what you're saying and capturing people wherever they are at that time. So I suppose that's a point to think about, right? Is that you don't know where the people are going to spend their time. You don't know where they're going to pay attention to your message. Something we've been saying a lot here is to iterate. And iteration means you drop the fear and you put things out faster to see what the response is like. So you could think then to go, well, if I'm trying to create a thread of a thought process. So for us, certain things that we're talking about now is that we think that people with content should be iterating faster, and that they should be defining their audience more clearly and having a micro audience that they make stuff for. And if it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work for the next million. So these are some threads that we're creating, and you could think of consuming this type of thinking on any platform. You don't have to watch a YouTube video to consume that, because the overarching goal is that people agree with what we're saying, and that is where content's going, and that we're kind of correct in that sense, that we can all build our content machines together, right? In the same way. So when you think about the thread as a thread of a thought process, it can be done through storytelling, or it can be done through just documenting thinking the whole time, maybe a little bit more like this. If you think about that as the thread, and that you're putting this out wherever you think people are, right? So if you don't think about Instagram so much as a platform, but just a place where people are paying attention to things, if you want your thread of thought to be thought about, why wouldn't you put things on Instagram and somehow figure out how to get the people that should be interested to get them to at least see what you're saying? And if it's of interest, they can get involved with it. They want to learn more, and then they can find more and more stuff. So maybe it's more about what is the platform able to give. I would say that Instagram is definitely not the platform where you want to post a 30-minute video of an event. So you then think about what is the platform best at displaying. And so Pinterest is not best at displaying videos, and YouTube is not best at displaying, say, an inspirational poster, right? So if you think about what each of the platforms is, what's best to be consumed on those platforms, and then you think about parts of your thread, so parts of your message, the things that you want people to have as a takeaway, and you think about how to package them to go on those platforms. So you might have a 25-minute talk on YouTube, and they might have 5 pertinent points that you can turn into posters that go on Pinterest, Instagram, and maybe Twitter. And then it can be cut down to a 2-minute video that goes onto Facebook with subtitles. And then your message is just getting in front of more and more people. And then I think this is the interesting thing. If you think about, I don't know if you've seen that new image of the sun, and instead of the sun being here and all the planets just going around it, the sun's actually moving through space quite fast, and all the planets are spinning around it, trying to keep with it, right? So they're like twirling with it and going in the same direction. If you think about that your thread is the sun zooming through there, and you're trying to get as many people to come and spin themselves around it and entwine themselves into your thread and and agree with you or argue with you and create debate and help you iterate to get to a stronger position, then that's an interesting way of viewing what all these separate platforms are doing for us. So all you're doing is grabbing, at the first instance, you're just grabbing micro bits of attention across all these places to try and push them towards where either a longer form or a different format is. I mean, with podcasting, it's obviously just audio, and pushing them towards that for certain types of information, so that you're then able to tie it all together. But I think in the early days of trying to build your thread, you do just want to focus on a platform. Maybe focus on, say, just YouTube. There's a butcher that I follow on Facebook. I don't get to see everything that he posts, but every now and again there's a video that he'll post of him where he's telling us about the latest deal that they've got going, and it's just a butcher in a small town out of Wellington, and it's just fabulous. He makes a 1-minute video of him just talking in the butchery. Somebody's just got an iPhone and just taken a video of him. It gets a few hundred views, sometimes it gets like 1,000 views. You can tell there's no ad spend behind it because the engagement's really high, and that's his channel to market. That's how he gets in front of people. He's got a finite amount of meat he can sell, and he'll just be talking about specials. He's personable. Sometimes they'll be out on the farm and they'll shoot themselves up in the hills. I mean, that to me, that is just fabulous. He doesn't need to go and figure out his Twitter strategy and go, how do I do this long form on YouTube? How do I do a podcast? He's not turning himself into a media company. He's just using video to engage with the audience. And his thread is great because I just want to know the next video. I want to see him again. I want to know what's coming up next in his next meat pack that he's got on offer. Sometimes they get wild pigs, sometimes they get deer, sometimes it's lamb, beef. It's interesting, right? So I guess that's of interest. So the thread really is around being a media company. That's what I think the true thread is about, which is that you're trying to create repeatable content with an arc to it that you can take people with you on, but around that there's the distribution, which is all the promotions you can do around it to get people to come back to the primary thread if it's platform based. So I think that's the whole becoming a media company play. But if you're just becoming a content company, if you're just trying to put out heaps of content and get people to follow along on your thought process, that can be much more the thread is your thought process, and all the platforms are just how you display certain thinking, certain different parts of thinking. And then you can just build up an audience at that point. And then of course it depends what's the output? What are you expecting at the end of it all? Anyway, this episode's been a little bit rambling. I do apologize. All right, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.